Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Welcome to our board meeting, and Mr. Weber, we can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Demakia.
Yes.
Mr. Fallis.
Good evening, President.
Mr. Smith. Present. Mr. Sturgill.
Here.
And Mr. Williams.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Led by
Tim Williams.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any recognition of visitors?
Today I'd like to introduce our new social worker. She'll be working at Credit Recovery Academy. She's actually coming home to Lorain, a Southwood 06 graduate, and she's have a lot of activities planned for our students at Credit Recovery Academy. And let's introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Alicia Neely.
Welcome.
Welcome, Alicia.
Graduate of Capital University
All right.
Okay.
and Cleveland State. But she's not a Cleveland Browns fan.
Good. Much to be a fan of.
Yeah.
Nice
yeah,
try.
I think they're
Good
going to
effort.
they're going to call those fanatics. They're not going to use the abbreviation fan. Yeah, Cleveland. Okay, well, thank you and welcome to the district, and we're excited to see the great work you're going to do with our students. At this time, we would entertain our first hearing of the public. Moving forward, a motion to approve or amend the signed minutes from the regular board meeting on Monday, August 4th, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Demakia.
Abstain.
And reason for the abstention?
I was not present at that board meeting.
That's right. Mr. Fallis.
Yes.
And Mr. Williams.
Yes. Any old business, gentlemen? I think there is one item that's kind of semi-old business, new business, but we will wait until the new business. It's just a discussion as it relates to the Academic Distress Commission and our joint meeting. It's information that we have discussed in the past. It's kind of some follow-up, but we will kind of postpone that until later, if that's okay. So we'll move forward with the report and recommendations of the treasurer. Mr. Weber.
Yes, sir. Mr. Williams, thank you. Late docket this evening. We get the July 2014 financial reports, the purchase orders requiring board approval, and we did have a donation for Fill the Bus of $200. So I recommend for approval items 1, 2, and 3.
Motion to approve items 1, 2, and 3.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Demakia.
Yes.
Mr. Fallis.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
And Mr. Williams.
Yes.
That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving forward, report and recommendations of the superintendent. Mr. Tucker.
Today was our first day for staff, and we had a good start to the year. Tomorrow, they have a professional development day, and they work in their buildings, and then our students start back, and we believe we're ready to go. And we're excited. Of course, as we know, school started, so now the temperature's getting up into the high 80s, into the low 90s. So. But that's all right. We have nice buildings that are air conditioned. Under the recommendations, personnel matters, item 1, approval of discontinuances is listed, certifying support. Item 2, approval of new appointments, certifying support as listed. Item 3, recall from reduction in force, our media clerk support staff. This is the last of our media clerks that we're putting in for our elementary libraries. Item 4, following teachers are recalled from reduction in force. One of those music teachers is replacing someone who retired this summer. The other 2 are going back into the elementary, and we're doing a modified program for our elementary and art students this year. And item 5, supplemental contracts for the continuation of our sports program for the fall. So I ask approval of personnel matters A, items 1 through 5.
Motion to approve personnel matters A, items 1 through 5.
Support.
Discussion? There is one point of discussion we've had some conversation on. We won't get into it much because we don't have much information. And it's as relates to one of the retirements. I've noticed that on the effective dates, They're 2014, 2014, 2014, then there's a 2015.
Sure, absolutely. The reason for that is if a teacher gives us their retirement before December 1st, they don't get evaluated in the year they retire. There's a great incentive to get that in early. That's why.
Okay. So, any other questions? I think there's some other questions that we may have, but I think we can move forward with the approval. So there's a motion on the floor. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Fellis?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Operation Matters B. Item 6, ESC for more OTES training. Item 7, Discovery Education. This is for the streaming licenses for our K-12 students for the science and the social studies area. Item 8, this is more of the file servers demanding social studies and science content for K-12. Items 9 and 10, we are blessed once again to have Boys and Girls Club work with us, and also they received a grant to do some more after-school programming in addition to what they've done before, so they'll be expanding their program, and we're very grateful for what they do for us. Item 11, approval of a contract with the ESC. This is for the social worker tonight for the credit recovery. Item 12, contract with InfoSnap. What InfoSnap is one of the areas that we took a look at last year was our registration program and the amount of paperwork and the amount of work it takes to get things accomplished here. This particular program now merges with our EMIS reporting system and our PowerSchool reporting system. So when our registration people enter the information for a parent, it automatically enters into all the programming across the district, so it only has to be entered into once. As we continue to get this, parents who have multiple children in the district, if they would like to enter their EMAs and their information online, and we'll have kiosks in the school where they'll be able to do this, it will populate all the information for all the students, and they only have to do it once, not 4, 5, or 6 times, and the only thing they'll have to change is whatever medical issues there are for each student. It will assist if parents come to register their student and they miss a document, we can put that in there, that they're missing one document, but we can get them registered and get them into school, so things will be much more seamless and should help our secretaries to get our students into school much easier. We're putting this in now, and it will start going into effect in January, February, when we start registering our new students at that time. So it'll be in full force next year. Item 13, resolution for school employees. Lorain County Credit Union, they have a program where they're going to teach financial literacy in the cafeteria and start savings plan for our 7th and 8th graders, which is a terrific program. They already have that in Elyria. The reason we're able to do it now is our credit union just merged with them this month, so they have that opportunity, and they'll be doing more with our students. Item 14 is a resolution to adopt what our changes to our career tech program. Item 15 is Nancy Lowry and Associates. That's a psychotherapist and the counselors. There's no cost to the district for that one. Item 16, a contract to provide CPR and first aid training that is required. Item 17 is a contract with the ESC to amend it. We are using our transition coordinator from 3 days to 5 days. That's for our special needs department, and that is a large area that has continued to grow. So I ask approval for Operation Matters B, items 6 through 17.
Motion
Minus-
to, yeah. motion-
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Exclude number
Items
10.
6 through 9, 12 through 17. Is that right, Tony?
11 through 17, right?
Okay.
So excluding items 9 and 10.
9 and
Yes.
10.
Yes.
So there's a motion to,
Approve items 6 through 8 and 11 through 17.
Correct.
Support.
thank you. Discussion?
I just, if I might, throw a little interesting information into, Mr. Tucker's aware of this. It's regarding the savings account program that we're establishing. I'd like to read, Mr. Tucker, a previous superintendent's report on a savings program. It took place at a school board meeting. The meeting was held on December 2nd, 1926. And the superintendent was Dalton J. Boone. And he reports to the board as follows, and I'm just going to read excerpts. Thrift has been for a number of years and is now considered a live subject for public school activity. In fact, the laws of Ohio compel the instruction in thrift be given 30 minutes per week in all elementary and high schools of the state. Not a bad rule.
Guess they had standards then, too.
Yeah, should have kept them. Anyway, in 1926, there were 8,253 students enrolled in Lorain City Schools. Of that number, 5,849 had established savings accounts. The interest earned for the year was $2,094, a little different than today because Lorain National Bank of Commerce, which is now Lorain National Bank of Commerce is now Lorain National Bank, was paying 4% interest in 1926. Interest earned in that period was $2,094.21, and total deposits in these accounts was $75,321.03. And those are 1926 dollars. What happened to that program? I believe it was called the Great Depression. And I wonder how many of those kids and their families were able to get through that Great Depression because they had saved some money in high school. And I think this is a great thing, Mr. Tucker, for our kids. I hope we can expand it eventually to the whole district.
That's intended.
I already talked to my niece about it. She's a student at Longfellow. I talked to her mom. Happened to be at her birthday party, and I said, you know, you got a lot of money in those cards. I think there may be some at your school this year that you'll want to talk about. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
I just want to check the motion in a second. Mr. Fallis made the motion, correct? And Mr. Sturgill made the second, correct?
No, I think I made it.
Yeah, you did it.
Other way around? Okay, so Mr.
Stay awake. Dale.
Sturgill was
Yeah.
number one. and
That was a
Mr.
little
Fallis-
difficult. We had kind of a long lapse.
Okay.
Well, not
I forgot what the motion was.
Okay, Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Fallis,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Demakia,
Yes.
and Mr. Williams.
Yes. Now, where are we?
9 and 10. 9 and 10.
I asked for approval of items 9 and 10.
Just FYI.
Motion to approve items 9 and 10.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Fallis.
Yes.
Mr. Demakia,
Abstain,
and reason?
because I'm employed by Boys and Girls Club.
Mr. Smith
Yes.
and Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Concludes my recommendation to report.
Thank you. Any new business before I open up brief discussion? Well, I'd like to share with the board, I had a meeting, and it was the second meeting that I've had over the last 6 months with the chair, Mr. Bill Zelli of the Academic Distress Commission. And initially when we met about 3 or 4 months ago, Tom, that I met with him, there were some concerns that the board had raised. Nothing really inflammatory, just the desire to look at our relationship going forward and to establish some formalized communication between us. Once we had made our appointments, and if people aren't familiar, the Academic Distress Commission, I think, was appointed around August 7th of last year, somewhere in that
In the spring.
spring. Or April, it was April 7th, something with an A, yeah. And we, as the district, through the chair, made 2 appointments to the 5-member commission. And at that time, I think that was the last formal conversation that I had with any of those appointees. Our board created an atmosphere that was very welcoming to the commission. We did everything we could do to create the most unfettered access to Mr. Tucker and his administration, and they've worked very cooperatively. And it has placed an exceptional burden of time on he and his staff, and they have met those obligations with smiles, but again, with a lot of additional work, as well as preparing for our regular board meetings. There was a lot of discussion, even in the media and in the community, as to the nature of the commission, its role, There were some questions, there were some challenges even in terms of our appointments. All, I think, went exceptionally well, especially if we look at the comparison, which the only one we have would have been the commission that was placed in Youngstown. We are the second district in the state of Ohio, one of only two to actually be engaged in this level of oversight from the state. And we learned a lot of lessons from there. Mr. Tucker and I interviewed all of the candidates, probably about 8 or 10 folks, vetted them, and actually had interface with the Department of Education prior to our selection. So we felt all the things that we did contributed towards starting a very healthy relationship and creating an atmosphere and environment that we thought would be best for the advancement of our kids. Well, since during that time, we've had some accomplishments. We've had some bumps in the road, but all in all, we feel pretty good about the progress. For the most part, I think Mr. Tucker, and again, his staff has done an exemplary job. But we're at a stage now where we're kind of looking at redefining, having some clarity. So the first piece that's going to happen is at their meeting, which is September 4th. We have been invited to attend their meeting. Many board members have attended meetings, but we have not formally been present there. This will be a formal presence. And we will not be really getting into any debate, but we just want to kind of meet them, have some dialogue, and just try to begin to, I think, narrate our relationship going forward. Now, my meeting with Mr. Zelli, I have to say there was some angst. There's been a little bit of stress. Again, this has been a pretty intense process for Mr. Tucker, the administration, the board, the district. When you're under a microscope, it gets pretty intense. And some of the things that the board had concern with was the amount of time that was being consumed through the commission work. And really, part of the piece was the superintendent's accessibility to the district. I know Mr. Tucker has a great desire to be out there, visible, in the schools, in the buildings, and again, some of the requirements, the demands were really straining in terms of time. So what we've done is we've kind of had a discussion where we start talking about how do we get a little bit of relief. And here are the things that we presented to Mr. Zelli. One, presently the commission communicates with Mr. Tucker on a weekly phone conference, and we have requested that be relaxed to twice a month. Also, our request, the commission presently meets monthly. Now, that means that the administration and staff are preparing for our 2 monthly meetings as well as the commission monthly meeting, which is usually between those two. And to accomplish some relief there, we've requested that be reduced to every other month. We believe that based on the progress being made, that this is reasonable. We didn't intend to continue to increase the frequency, but also if it proves that there's some staggering or some stagnation, they can easily increase the rigor again. But we think this is reasonable, and it's not just to be doing it, it's because there are other things that need attention. And the board is very insistent that we get the best of our investment out of the superintendent and his administrative staff in their work on behalf of the district, as well as not overtaxing and overworking them. I don't think anybody's been given any raises based on their work doing the commission work, correct, Mr. Tucker?
All free.
But it has been an increase of time spent by he and his staff, and those numbers are pretty considerable. So in respect and out of appreciation for our staff, we don't want them to be overtaxed. And let's see, and gentlemen, please feel free to chime in because we had lots of little conversations about some of the ongoing progress, Mr. Tucker. This is just an open kind of discussion. What else did we request? Tom, was there anything else that I had indicated to you?
Just the report.
Yes, that's the two of probably the biggest factors is there was a extensive survey of the district, a report. They came in, they interviewed board members, they evaluated the staff, and this was the second. The first was done prior to developing the plan. and the ODE assessing, I guess, the status of health of our district. There were certain things they talked about, the culture in the district, that they wanted to see some changes in. Well, as a follow-up to that first report they did back in the first week of May, I believe it was, they came into the district for a week and did this again. And this was going to be one of the driving pieces of this driving document in terms of reassessing the plan, evaluating the progress, probably along with the report card, two of the most objective pieces of information that the commission would need and that the board would need moving forward. So what have we done over this year? What accomplishments have we made? How can we objectively look at that? We needed that report to do the assessments. We have yet to receive that report. And I think we were told, gentlemen, that we would have that in July.
I thought so.
And of course, we were looking forward to that because we would be in somewhat of the off season. We'd be able to look at that, make some assessments, make some adjustments. Unfortunately, we have not had the benefit of that. Also, recently was delayed the release of the report card.
That's correct. That's delayed a number of weeks.
Yeah, so part of the commission's responsibility is a year from the initial date, they have to submit a correction or a
All it states is they have to do any kind of, if they're gonna, they have to submit another plan or submit the same plan. But it's real tough to make any corrections when you don't have any data other than what you have here.
And as we were somewhat behind the eight ball, going into our first year of the commission, they didn't have the information. We did the appointment. The finalization of the commission, I think, was sometime in August.
Part of the problem, if you remember the first year, report cards were delayed. They were supposed to come out in August, but the report cards weren't released until March. That was an ODE issue because of the data scrubbing in other districts. And
all that led to the beginning of our school year, us not being armed with the things that were really necessary to begin to utilize the commission. Mr. Tucker had formulated much of the plan because we knew that we were going to be in a precarious situation prior to the distress commission. And so fortunately, with the agreement of the ODE, we went ahead and moved forward with that while it was being formulated. Here we are again, a few days from school, and we're absent some critical, essential data that we believe would be helpful that also would affirm and show some of the work of the commission. So the commission has been doing some good work. They've been putting in some time, and we don't even have the benefit of that information. So what we didn't want to do is have our first meeting with the commission also be when the ODE is presenting their report. We felt it very important that our first meeting with the commission is not based on a big decision-making piece, but we want to just kind of meet, talk, share some values, and the board have an opportunity to talk about their expectations of the commission and vice versa. So we will meet with the commission at their meeting on September 4th. Coming back to our first meeting in October, we will be inviting the ODE to present the report, the state of the district report in essence. Following that, of course, we will also, I think, hopefully have our report card. At least that's our hope.
Or at the mercy of ODE.
And then I think a week later, and this will be coming from the superintendent's office, the second week in October, there will be a community forum in which superintendent will present the report to the community at large. The commission will be invited to that meeting as well as the board. That will not be a board meeting. It will be a meeting of the superintendent, his staff. He will facilitate that meeting. And it's not enough to just release the report. I'm sure that the media will have the report in the paper, but we want clarity and understanding. We want to be able to take that report, analyze the report, and then present it to the community in a way which they can understand it, in a way that makes it more meaningful. We believe that's the essence of transparency, not just information, but understanding the information. And so we'll expect that once that's done, there will be some questions. It'll be an appropriate time for question and answer. We also feel that if we didn't give the community that opportunity, that would force them to use our board meeting for that format, and that's not the purpose of our board meeting. So we'll appreciate Mr. Tucker and his staff preparing that. Any questions, gentlemen, and concerns? Again, we will meet with the commission, and at that stage, we will be able to kind of share some of our concerns and challenges.
One thing I would like to say is we've made a lot of progress in 2 years.
If you were at our opening this morning and 3 of the commission members were there, this team, these teachers, our parapros, everybody, cleaning staff, everyone has pitched in the last 2 years, and we've made incredible strides. You will see that, and we're starting to see some of that, and I hope to have a pretty big announcement in the next couple of weeks to show that. And what I want to make sure is when the report is there to show where we have addressed all these items and really gone and done everything we can. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. No district could undergo that kind of scrutiny without some recommendation. And I repeat, no district could undergo that scrutiny without recommendations. So we are working diligently around the clock to make those things happen that we know need to happen.
Please.
Well, I've attended every committee meeting, observed what they were doing. I know that they are well-intended, hardworking folks. But I also question the legal authority of the commission. I think that needs to be tested in court. I think they know that they are not on sound ground and are avoiding every opportunity that would test it. Every meeting we start, we stand and we say the Pledge of Allegiance. But do we understand the words we're speaking? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I think we all get that. But the next part is, and to the republic for which it stands. We are not a democracy. We are a republic. A republic is a form of government in which the citizens voluntarily give up their right to self-govern through a process called elections. And I question the authority of an appointed commission having authority over an elected board. Our duty is to the people that live in the school district. Some happen to be children. How can a commission appointed by a state agency undercut the authority given to the elected board members, both in the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Constitution? That needs to be tested. Secondly, I have a lot of time on my hands, so I have reviewed the test results that have been posted for many years on the ODE website. And in checking the 4 years that the commission has been in place in Youngstown, the test results have not changed very much. I have developed a communication with a Youngstown board member. They are frustrated. And if you look at the 4 years, I looked at 4 years, the year before the commission was formed and the 3 years it's been in place, and it's basically the same. There's been no academic improvement. And and the other thing we need, and I think you mentioned this in our phone conversation, Mr. President, we need to have clarity on what do we have to do to get rid of the commission, specifically. I don't know if it's what is it, do you know, Tom?
There's a number of different ways it happens. They've changed the law 3 times in the past 18 months, I believe, so it's changed a number of times. Current law, if I'm not mistaken, and you can look this up, I believe it's a grade of a C in 2 out of 3 years, or until the state superintendent deems that the district is on the road to the right path and can release them. I believe that's correct.
Well, according to articles in both papers, I think yesterday, the goal in the state is to have, is it 80% of proficient or above? Or
They actually raised the bar this year, so it used to be 75% to hit your indicators. Now they raised it to 80%, and that's why I mentioned earlier, if you look around a lot of districts now, if you've done just as well as you have done in the past, you're going to look worse. It's part of ramping up the new assessments.
My solution, quite frankly, would be is to, and I respect members of the commission. I know they're working hard, but I think the best thing we could do is shake hands, good luck, and see it. Because I don't see any results. And I think we owe it to the citizens who put us here to clarify, do they have the right to change a contract to which they are not a party? Do they have the right to take a negotiated agreement and ignore it? They're not a party to that. You know, I found it very interesting a year down last fall when they wanted to do that survey. I guess that was the speaker this morning, correct?
That's correct.
If they have all this authority to spend money, why did they bring it to the board to vote on? Because I don't think, in reality, they have that authority. It sounds good in 3302.10, but is it really going to hold up in court? And as the editor of the Chronicle said a month or so ago, it really does need to be tested. So what would happen if we what would happen if we charged them for his time? This guy has been put, quoting an old phrase, between a rock and a hard place. By law, he reports to only one entity, and that's the school board. And yet the commission has stepped in, commanded his time, his staff time, school facilities, school supplies. I think we ought to come up with a resolution to charge him. Maybe $2,000 to $5,000 a month. That's my opinion. Thank you.
And before we go on, part of the reason for this discussion, and again, I met with Mr. Zelli and informed him we would have this discussion today. We have held off on having any open discussion because we didn't want anything to compromise the work that the commission needed, the atmosphere they needed to be effective in. We don't intend to compromise that work now either, but there are many thoughts and many different expressions in terms of their role. We've had correspondence where, what is their authority, what isn't their authority? And we're not trying to define, the Ohio Revised Code has offered its definition. We are not testing it. It would be tested in court if it were tested. We're simply expressing some different perspectives of board members because for us to move forward, we have to make sure that we're open and honest and that people know how each other feels. I think, again, if we look at it objectively, we've had some serious, significant improvement over the last 2 years.
If you would like me to do my presentation, I've got it right here to what I told the staff today. There's some pretty astounding things that this staff, and I say the staff, the team, that's everyone that works here, and our students have done this year. There's some pretty staggering, good items that are happening.
And perhaps we will take some time, Tom, if you can kind of pull some of that and share with us this evening. Because, from student attendance to teacher attendance to all kind of things going on in the classroom, the district is making significant improvement in advance. I think were we fourth from the bottom when we started? Second from the bottom? And I think we've moved up quite a number of slots. 8 or 10 slots. So we're going in the right trajectory. We're going in the right direction. And again, we appreciate the atmosphere, even with the commission present. I genuinely believe that the presence of the commission has been a positive impact on the district. Ultimately, again, we want to know, how do we get out of it? What is the future piece? I think the subjective area it's nice the way they craft this. There are some objective criteria. 2 years out of 3 of a C or better. I like the other, where the director of the Department of Education assesses that we're on the right track. And I think that and even what I believe the commission will be recommending, we're on the right track. So again, to Mr. Tucker and his staff, continue that good work. And we may have that other option. Other board members, I know there were some other concerns, thoughts, if you want to express those now while he's prepping.
I'm not too concerned about the role of the commission. Again, when they first came into this district, I clearly support that initiative by the state of Ohio. I think that the commission is could be a powerful resource for us. My concern is, and again, I agree with Mr. Smith.
Wait.
And mark it on your calendar.
Already did. Thanks, Tony.
But at the end of the day, it's this Board of Education that's been elected by this community that has to rest with the decisions of this district, not that commission. And I think that as a board, we should really focus on what our role is and, again, reevaluate the situation we're in. I think it's a good process to go to the commission and communicate with them to relieve our superintendent of some of the burdens that they have pressed upon him during their time here. But again, as a board member, I think our focus should be on this Board of Education and how we function as a board and how our superintendent focuses on this board or that commission. I think that needs to be a real conversation with the commission. And, again, they're a positive resource. I mean, I agree with what they're doing and how they're doing it. And certainly it has pushed the district to do some things that we may not have done if they weren't here. So, I mean, there are positives with that. I'm not, against the commission. I just think as a board, we really need to refocus what, it is that we need to be doing, as well as what our superintendent and the rest of his administrative staff and the rest of this district needs to be doing. Because, again, at the end of the day, the decision of the district rests on this board and not that commission.
Thank you, Mr. Demakia. Mr. Fallis?
Yeah, just a couple thoughts here. Obviously, it's been articulated that there's been a lot of work done over the last couple of weeks, and there's a pretty huge burden on the school district to address the academic issues and that have been presented by the Academic Distress Commission. I'm not of the viewpoint that we need to figure out how to get rid of them. I think there's some steps that need to occur first, and that is, how do we remove some of that burden? Number one. Number two, we need to put them to the fire and say, look, you need to give us those reports so we can see where we're at and demonstrate the progress and move this progress forward. So I really agree with Tony. I think that we need to do what we need to step up to the plate and move that process forward and communicate with the Academic Distress Commission of the importance and need to lessen the burden and move the process forward and find out what that is, what the end game is. We really don't know what the end game is. We need to have that conversation with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sturgill?
I think I'm in agreement with, with Jim and Tony and Mitch, but I think it's going to be interesting to listen to their evaluation of what they think they have accomplished in a year, because we sat and we heard their plan, and I know they're going to reevaluate it, but I think it's going to be interested in how they self-evaluate themselves, and I think that's going to be interesting to hear in September.
Yeah. Yes, and again, I think a few pieces to reinforce is the plan that the commission has recommended is a plan developed by Mr. Tucker and his staff. There was no outside consultants developing this plan. I would say an overwhelming 80% of the plan was developed prior to the commission even being put in place. Again, we appreciate the work they've done and however that work has leveraged and focused us, but our confidence is in our administration, the direction that we're moving in, and we want to make sure that that's clearly understood. We are not in a war with the commission at all. But we believe that this district is represented well by its administrative staff. And again, I think it'll be good for us, gentlemen, to share some of our perspective with the commission. Again, this is not an argument. This is just a place in the relationship after a year where we have to kind of reassess and redefine. And there are unique opportunities here. I think one of the great opportunities is going to be, and we don't want to kick them out, but we want to see with clarity what is the pathway to their exit. There has to be an exit strategy because this doesn't go on forever. And we've seen what happens in the world when there are not good exit strategies. It causes people to be in a condition, in a position that's unhealthy. So we want to know that. And I think the other piece is we want to make sure that our staff remains motivated. During this kind of process, it can be very demotivating for folks who feel like they're not appreciated. I shared with Mr. Zelli these things objectively, that our staff should be felt appreciated, they should not be overtaxed, they should not be micromanaged. Now I said those three things clearly because I know that's not their intention, but even us as a board, even though it's not our intention, sometimes we get into a place that maybe is out of our lane a little bit. So we want to make sure, again, that Mr. Tucker and his folks can do their work. So I think that was a great segue because we have some nice, objective, positive information for the district here.
A couple things I discussed this morning that we're going to go through here. Two items that aren't in this presentation that I acknowledged was the cleanliness of our buildings and our cleaning staff and our maintenance staff of how well they've done. We have award ceremonies for them now, and I attended the last one, and they're going above and beyond to make those buildings nice. We also feed our children breakfast and lunch, and we had an award ceremony here for the transportation department that had 100% accident-free last year. So I had the folks stand that we have clean buildings, new buildings, well-equipped buildings. We transport them safely. We feed them breakfast and lunch. We have a great educational team where you're going to see some of the things that are going forward. So we're moving in the right direction. One thing I started with last year was I said that the legislature has probably done more to education to change it in the last year and a half than in my previous 36 years. And to illustrate some of that, all of these are things that have just come online that the newspapers reported. And you can see all the way the PARCC testing, that's coming up this year. That's the end of course exams of which students are subject to, but they're not written yet. They're writing them now. We're going to be testing online, of course. The content standards, you're reading about that in the paper every day. The teacher evaluation, the principal evaluation, ETEPS, that's how we report all that stuff down there. Student linkage, that's where each student's test score links to the teacher. That's a lot of work because it's a percentage for some teachers. Third grade reading guarantee, we put in our newly adopted reading programs. The NWEA MAP, that's more assessments. That's what helps our students know if they're on track or not. You also have value added. Those are the test scores that go to the teacher and gets attached to the teacher's evaluations. We now have reading interventions for tier 1, 2, and 3, depending on their levels because of the third grade reading guarantee. Then we have to write a reading improvement plan for all the students that aren't on track. So this year that was 300 and some students. We have ICANN statements, clear learning targets posted in every classroom so the teachers know, or the students know exactly what the teacher's doing for the day. We have an academic recovery plan. It's 25 plus pages long. We have a committee in here that I answer to 2 boards. We have classroom rounds, which is where the principals are required to go into the classrooms every day. That's a good thing. We have an increased focus on lesson plans. That's a good thing. We also have attendance accountability. We also, for all our teacher meetings, we now have to have what's called a 5-step process. The teachers have to fill out this whole form. That's 5 steps to show if it's a successful meeting. All those are then collected, and then they have to be sent down to the state and judged. So there's a lot of work on those 5-step process. In addition to that, when I came, a lot of our pacing guides and our curriculum was not up to speed. So the teachers have written all pacing guides for all subjects in all areas, and we teach hundreds and hundreds of courses here. And that's a tribute to the teachers and my staff to make sure that gets done. And they reviewed them this summer to make sure they were on track for next summer. We are required by law to have teacher-based teams, which we also have, which meet every week. We have building leadership teams. It meets usually bi-weekly, and then they report to the district leadership team, which meets here on a monthly basis. That all relates to the Ohio Improvement Plan, of which we have a representative from OEDE that comes in here, and all that paperwork flows here. We have to prove that those meetings are taking place with the agendas. People have to sign in, and we submit those to the state. Last year, of course, we had calamity days and the required makeup days that we had to deal with. We have STRS eligibility changes, which means people are real panicking about whether they're staying or going, and we have to be very conscious of how many teachers we will have to replace next year. Attendance for staff, accountability, that 5-step process, that's part of that I talked earlier. Ongoing professional development. This year, our first professional development was held at the Spitzer Center. We had probably 80 to 90 sessions that the teachers could take. We had over 900 people attend. Now, some attended 3 and 4 times. Then we had a second session where another 900 people attended to get our staff online with all the new things. So that's a big focus that we're doing. We have the Thoughtful Classroom, which is what our instructional development, that's who we've been hired. You've been voting on, the Harvey Silver and Company. That is part of what we're doing. That gets us a lot of positive student achievement with regards to the new standards. The Wilson Reading Program Foundations, that's an extremely successful program for students who are struggling. They've had it in Elyria for years. They've had great success. We've had a lot of training on that, and we had more training on that today. The My Voice survey, that's what we talked about. And then now teachers have to do their licenses online, and there's more. That all happened in the last year and a half. You don't talk about angst, that's angst. Now, let's talk about some other things. This is year 2 of the Academic Distress Commission. My goal, and I stated this twice, and 3 of them were there, is to get district and student improvement so they will no longer be needed. My goal is to have district student improvement so they will no longer be needed. The report will be released this fall, and I hope to see areas of progress for us and areas that we still need to improve, but our folks need credit for what they're doing. Now, one of their big focuses, of course, was attendance, because our attendance was supposedly so atrocious here. 80% of our schools increased attendance rates this past year. The 20% that didn't, they pretty much stayed the same. But overall, this is huge. We had 93% plus. It's not official because the state has to make sure all the students are in place. That's huge. In an urban district, 93% in a year where we canceled school and had snow days and some of the worst weather ever, that's pretty amazing. There are suburban districts that would be happy with that. Of course, we all were on the staff on how bad the staff attendance was. I'll tell you what, you challenge our staff goes, by God, we can do it. 95.2% was our staff attendance this year. That's huge. That's huge. The only thing that's not correct or is not in there is teachers that were out on FMLA. We took those out. That wasn't fair. But I'll tell you what, our staff showed up. So now we had 93% of our kids in class, 95% of our teachers there. Now all of a sudden, that means 9.5 out of 10 days, our students are there. On the student attendance, we had some schools hit 95, 96%. That is unbelievable. And some were hitting 97 and 98% for a couple months on time. But you do have such things as flu and epidemics, but that's pretty amazing. Our OGT increases. We increased in these areas. The other ones we were held relatively flat, and there's our areas we didn't go up in. Remember, they raised it from 75% to 80%. Well, why we may have gone up, it wasn't enough to hit the mark. These are the increases we had in our elementary OAA scores. Now, these are all trends. These are unofficial data because it won't come out officially, but this is what we're looking at that's improved. We're so excited about mathematics in 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Part of the 7th and 8th grade is part of the program that was actually started before I came here, and that was the Springboard Math, which is aligns to the ACT Math. They really took that under their wing and really tried to push it, so that helps our kids in algebra moving forward. This is what the papers always are big about, and actually Channel 3 is coming out to interview me tomorrow morning on this. When we gave the fall assessment, which we give the OAAs, 70% of our students could not read on grade level, only 30% were passing. That's a challenge. Now we had to write RIMP plans and go the next step. Winter assessment, 157, so we had 63% were failing, 37% were passing. Please remember, those students, when they entered kindergarten, were at a 15% level. So we went from 15% to 30% in 3 years. We then went crazy with the summer and everything else we did, that we got this to 93% passing, up from the 30%. That's huge. Of those 33 students that didn't pass, you'd be surprised at how many were not with us for 4 years. We have a very mobile population. So what are we doing for those students? Well, here's what we're doing. They now get a reading specialist. 2, we're revising their reading improvement plan. 3, they have more intensive reading instruction using different strategies with where their weaknesses, with our intention of promoting them in January as they go forward. Some of those students would have been retained in 3rd grade. Some are going on to 4th grade, but they will remain in 3rd grade reading. It depends on each individual case. One thing that I'm big about this year, and one of our focuses this year, we have done so much with curriculum, and we've done so much with getting our pacing guides, because we need to get that house in order. It is in order. We're moving forward. Relationships. This is so huge to us this year. And that's our relationships to adult to student, adult to adult, and our parents, because I firmly believe relationships are everything. And what I want for, and what I've pushed our staff to do, is rather than look for how we can do it as opposed to why we can't. Because I believe that solutions trump disagreements every time, and we need to practice what we preach our students, because relationships is our next step. And I reminded our staff that the messages they are sending, verbal, nonverbal, it doesn't matter, are being heard. And I firmly believe that they are making a difference here. They need to be proud of what they do. Don't make excuses. And by gosh, you saw that 3rd grade reading guarantee. They are making a difference. Now, what are we doing here? Okay. Written improved pacing guides, that's what we've done. We've implemented Ohio's new content standards, commonly known as Common Core for math and science, but math and English language arts, the science and social studies are not Common Core. They're the own Ohio standards. We have academic coaches at all sites. Those are teachers that assist other teachers. That's been huge in helping identify other areas that we need to do it. We have quality professional development, that what the staff has requested. We have the new reading programs. If you remember when we decided to change from SFA, we brought the teachers in to decide which programs would be worthwhile to our students. We implemented them the first year. Research always shows it takes 3 to 5 years to see change. Well, we saw quite a bit of change this past year, and now the teachers are asking the question. Now they know the questions to ask with the new reading programs even more in depth. We're partnering with other school districts who have utilized this with students similar to ours so we can even get better with that. We reestablished full-day kindergarten, We reestablished the elementary library programs. In the past, we didn't do much PD with the elementary library. You hired or helped me hire a consultant to come in, and now those library media aides are going to have lesson plans, do accelerated reader, and get children excited about reading to reinforce what's going on. They're excited because we're helping them rather than just putting books away. Now they are really, really going to be able to help those students read, and that's exciting. We're bringing back art and music, so the K through 3 will have music for a semester, and 4 through 6 will have art for a semester, either fall or spring semester. And then depending on how our financial picture shapes up, then we will go ahead from there. We've been able to maintain busing for all students, and you've been down that route because you guys had to make some very difficult decisions. Our AVID program, which is success for those students in 8th grade, we started with about 10 or 12. We trained 30 people this summer, went to the conference. So we have 40 people trained on that. That is huge for college and career tech readiness. That's growing huge. We have tripled our preschool enrollment. What you guys don't see is we bring an agenda forward and the public sees the agenda comes forward, but they don't see over time. We've added new preschool sites, tripled the size of our preschool. That's unbelievable because that's key. We're serving all areas of the city now. Before we didn't have a south site. Now we have a south site. The other thing we're doing is one of the foundations has been very good and very kind, and what they're going to do is one of our special needs supervisors is now we'll hopefully get funding for a couple days a week to do a preschool coalition with the Step Up to Quality. There'll be a name, and you'll get a chance to vote on that name as it comes forward. They've done this in Elyria and had incredible success. All the preschools, whether they're private preschools or our preschools, will be in a coalition together, of which our person will lead that coalition to help them get resources to teach those students to read. There are some preschools in town that are just outstanding when it comes to helping educational. Others would like some help. Well, we're willing to give them that help because those students will all be coming to us with that. We've also entered discussions and had about 4 meetings with Mercy. Mercy has a program for young mothers from birth to about 18 months of age for babies, and they have always done the health care and what they can do to help those mothers and keep the children healthy. Well, now they want to do a literacy piece. So I've reached out to them. We've been meeting that we're going to help them get a literacy program for the moms to help the moms read to the children, and we're also going to help the mom skills and teach them what they need to know. So we are even working from the birth to the 18-month with the hospital. Now we got to figure out the 18 months of the 3-year-old. We got a little bit of a gap, but that's crucial for us. So we're working on that. We had the Thoughtful Classroom, which is a Silver and Strong. Now it's going into the K through 6. It has been in the 7 through 12. We're going to continually improve the TBT process. Continuity of building leadership. I said the day I came in here, part of what I felt was a weakness was the moving around of people. And I firmly believe relationships are important. Most of our principals are starting their 3rd year in their building. Some are starting their 4th and 5th year. Unless we've got a new principal in or someone's left, I firmly believe you leave people where they are. They know the families. They know the parents. They know the teachers. There's a culture in a building. If someone doesn't particularly like that culture, they can either adapt to it or move on. But those parents know that's my principal. I know what's happening there. The teacher knows what's happening there. And I haven't moved staff. They've chosen to move themselves.
Continuity is everything here because relationships are so crucial for us. And you can take credit for this. 2 years, we've had no reduction in force. We've been able to handle it through attrition. That's huge because that's a big distraction, and that causes all kinds of fallout. The website's still a work in progress. Dale and I work every day along with the board on fiscal accountability and stability. Our board policy manual is down to one section left. We should have that completed by September. The board members have known we've worked diligently on that over the past year to get that happen. Lorain High School is beautiful. You see it going up. It is on schedule, and we were behind, if you remember, when we started, and on budget. That is amazing, and that's a story for another day. Community agency partnerships, one thing that we've done, and Dr. Hall gets all the credit for this. We now have a set of district priorities, and there's a lot of great folks in the community that want to come in and work with us. But a lot of times, it's a shotgun approach. Oh, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. Now we have a set of priorities, whether it's literacy, whether it's science or whatever. They come in and we go, hey, here's the things that we're looking to do in our classrooms and what we're doing, and they go, oh, we can help with this. So everyone's channeled and focused on the same things. I have 4 foundations listed there that have spent a lot of money. There are many more. There are many more. Those are the ones that we do a lot of the work with. I have Urban League, Boys and Girls Club, 100-Man, NAC, Chip Sparks. There's many more. I hate listing them because I'm going to miss somebody. There are 50, 60 there. And this was for our teachers, but they are all contributing to the success of our students. The APQC, last year we completed the reorganization of Charleston and my governance. We did the registration improvement, the assessment improvement. Dale is still working with HR on the employee process change. We've also worked a new project with, this was all funded by the Nord Family Foundation. We also have purchasing process, and we also are going to start a new one on community and parent involvement. The other one we're doing right now is Count on Us. We have to improve those district leadership, building leadership teams, and we're having staff going through a whole improvement process on how to get those to work better for us. I won't go into detail on those. New initiatives, Tools for Schools. We've already met with them. That's the marketing firm. We're putting that together because they're helping us with our career tech. We've restarted the Business Advisory Committee, and those folks have told us where the jobs are. And guess what? What we're finding out with Tools of Schools in a number of areas are, you always see the things in the public. If you have a bachelor's degree, you'll make this amount of money. You have a master's degree, you can make this amount of money, et cetera, et cetera. What they don't tell you is there's so many jobs for bachelor's degrees, and there's so many jobs for master's degrees. And so many folks are underemployed or unemployed because the jobs aren't there. What they're telling us is in the career tech area, you can make a lot of money. You need a career tech license or some type of credential or a community college, and we're working close with community college to get those folks. They need welders. They need industrial electricians. They make good money, and those jobs you can start tomorrow. InfoSnap I talked about earlier. Board docs, now that we have our new Treasurer's Executive Secretary here, you'll be seeing that hopefully in September. Procore Diagnostics, what that does is help us with a lot of our assessments. I'm not going to get into detail, but it is in these areas that will help us. New initiatives coming forward. Public School Works. We haven't been real diligent on some of our trainings, and this is keeping up to speed with child abuse, blood-borne pathogens, ethics training, trying to think of all the other ones. What we've done now is, and the problem with those is you don't need them every year. Some you need every 3 years, some you need every 5 years, some you need every year, some you need one time in your career, and it's tough to get everybody together. So now we've got it all in there. You've purchased this last year. What this is it's an online course. They send those courses out. I had 5 to take. I took them last week. You can take them online, and then we can see if people are all compliant. They've learned the latest laws for child abuse. A lot of school districts use this, and it's for everyone, all the way from the superintendent, all the way down to the cleaners who need to know about the dangerous chemicals that they use. And it eliminates redundant training, so some of the people don't have to sit through 3 sessions of ethics. They only need 1. The other thing we're working on is books at work. This is something that we're putting in. The foundation has given us some money, and what this is they've done it in Maple Heights. It's for our non-certified staff. Anyone who's not a teacher or administrator, they're going to start a book club at the end of the day for an hour for 4 weeks, and then
They will help pick their books, and they will have short stories to read. They pay for it. There's usually a professor from a college that works with them. I can give you some information. They've done it in Maple Heights and had 15 people participate. Some of the staff members said, can we read the same books the high school kids are reading? We read that when I was in high school. I didn't understand it. And it's life's lessons and teaching people how to think a little differently, and they can read some pretty high-level books that you may have read when you were 14 or 15. You didn't understand To Kill a Mockingbird. When you're an adult and someone's walking you through it, it means a lot different. So that's for that. The student branch, the ambassador program for the middle school, you know. What we're going to do in the future still. Clustering of elementary schools. We're still looking at that and having a long conversation and talking to our community to see if that's a direction we want to go. We need to look at a later start time for our high school because of what the research tells us about our high school students. And alternative schools, we need to look and further define what we have now. We know we have to be out of Lowell soon, and we know we're going to have to deal something with credit recovery because when the high school opens, we know that that is going to be a junior high, and 6, 7, 8 are going to be at the middle schools. So we have to look at what we want to do, and we have to redefine Lorain Digital, which we already have, and we're going to be having a presentation on that soon, and to look at the programming there to make sure we're successful for that. And, of course, the Student Voices, which is the culture thing that we're going to be doing. They're going to come in 2 days a month from now until May. They are going to survey the students. What this is a student voice program. It's the student voice, so the student voice is heard along with the teacher voice to help change the culture in the building so we can make decisions based upon the way they see things. I did that all in 45 minutes this morning. You got about 15 minutes. I talked fast. But are we making progress? I think we are. And these are all tangible things I can take and say, he's in charge of this. This is happening. Here's the document. Here's what we've done. So and by the way, just so you know, I started my third day last Friday. My third year last Friday, August 15th. So I'm just in the second day of my third year. This staff and the teachers have stepped up, and our staff has done this in 2 years. It's amazing work. They deserve a lot of credit for the hard work they've done. I'm just the lucky guy who gets to lead them. They've picked up the mantle and taken it forward, and our students have stepped up too, and we're moving forward. Sorry.
Well, that needs no follow-up. That says what it needs to say. Thank you, Mr. Tucker, and again to the staff and your administrators and the entire team, the students, parents, everyone involved. Let's keep moving forward. Are there any other items, gentlemen? This time we would have a second hearing on the public. No takers. Our next board meeting,
September 8th, 6:30 p.m., Charleston.
right here. And we will receive probably via email a formal invitation to the September 4th Academic Distress Commission meeting.
What time is that meeting?
I believe it's 4:30 in this room. Is that right, Jim? I don't know. Let me look. I can tell you. 1 second.
Thank you.
4:30 in this room.
Thank you.
And again, thank you, Mr. Tucker, for that that presentation. May I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
Discussion? Didn't think so. Roll call.
Mr. Pellis,
Yes.
Mr. Demakia,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
It's coming from Channel 3.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.
To purchase a high-quality copy of the program you just viewed, please call Lorain City Schools Television at 282-8400.